Hello and welcome. Tonight, the Supreme Court reserves judgment in the suit filed by 16 states challenging the constitutionality of the laws establishing the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission and 2 others. The chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Mr. Ola Olukoyede, says Nigeria lost over $500 million to cybercrime in 2022. And the IMF lowers its 2024 growth forecast for Nigeria's economy to 2.9%.
On business news tonight, International Monetary Fund endorses CBN's series of rate hikes and forex reforms, describes them as suitable measures to stabilize the economy.
On sports news tonight, CAF President Patrice Motsepe urges members associations to endeavor to treat visiting teams with respect and dignity amid investigation of Nigeria-Libya fiasco.
And from Abuja, the FCT Minister, Mr. Nyesom Wike, gives roadside beggars a 5-day ultimatum to leave the roads or face enforcement action as it flags up a 2.7-kilometer access road in Abuja.
And in international news from London, Donald Trump says a supernatural hand saved him from being assassinated as he tries to appeal to Christians in North Carolina.
We begin from the highest court in the land, and the Supreme Court has reserved judgment in a lawsuit filed by 19 states against the federal government, challenging the constitutionality of the laws that establish the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission and 2 others. The judgment date will be communicated to the parties involved. During the hearing, the court ruled that its judgment would apply to Imo, Bauchi, Ogun, and Osun states, which joined the suit, while Anambra, Ebonyi, and Adamawa states announced their withdrawal. The Attorney General of the Federation, Mr. Lateef Fagbemi, present as the defendant, requested the court's permission to proceed with the documents filed that morning. A presiding Justice Uwani Abaji granted leave for the defendant to use the reply and points of law submitted on Tuesday. That's today. Now, despite the withdrawal of 3 states, the number challenging the constitutionality of the EFCC and others has risen to 19. The court also ruled that the judgment will apply to Ogun, Nasarawa, and Osun states, which had earlier sought consolidation. Other states involved in the suit include Kogi, Kebbi, Katsina, Sokoto, Jigawa, Enugu, Oyo, Benue, Plateau, Cross River, Ondo, Niger, Edo, Bauchi, Imo, Osun, Nasarawa, Ogun, and Taraba states. So the National Assembly and the Senate has announced a 6-man ad hoc committee to investigate recent allegations leveled against Senator Oyinlola Ashiru representing Kwara South. The committee is expected to summon the NDLEA to explain the recent allegations. Before now, the NDLEA had days ago alleged that Senator Ashiru's house in Ilorin, Kwara State was raided and illicit drugs were found. The accusation followed contributions by Senator Ashiru on the floor of the Senate on the 15th of this month during a debate on the bill to establish the National Institute for Drug Awareness and Rehabilitation, where the senator described the NDLEA as, quote, the most corrupt and compromised agency. Senator Ashiru, who during plenary came under Order 42, raised as malicious and unfounded impressions created by the NDLEA on its press statement issued on October the 21st, describing it as an act of witch hunting. He notes that the agency singled him out for personal attacks and impugned his privilege as a senator to freely contribute to debates on the floor of the Senate.
I'm coming under Order 42, personal explanation, to explain and clear myself on the insinuation published, especially in Daily Trust, that Senator Ashiru is involved in distribution of drugs. The NDA has made unfounded allegations against me. These allegations are malicious, an attempt to undermine my credibility as a senator and impede my ability to freely participate in parliamentary debate. I'm 68 years now. I assert that I cannot even identify what we call cannabis or any drug. Beyond taking water, I don't take alcohol, I don't take any drug, I don't even take carbonated drinks. beyond taking water and normal food.
Dear colleagues, we must take this issue very seriously because injury to one is injury to all. And we must call this agency to order. So it is my personal view that we should immediately set up an ad hoc committee to invite the NDLEA and the rest of them, all those involved, to come and justify the allegations against Senator Ashiru, failing which the Senate will take very drastic actions. Those in support say aye, those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has directed its committees on police affairs, interior, national security, public safety and legislative compliance to send a team to Anambra State to meet with the state government and key stakeholders about the rising insecurity there. This follows the brutal killing of 10 youths in Nibo Community, Awka South local government area. After a motion by Obiageli Orogbu, the House also urged the Nigeria Police and the DSS to investigate the killings and bring the perpetrators to justice. The House further called on the federal government to quickly send more security personnel, not only to Awka South and North Federal constituency, but across the entire state to restore order and protect lives and property.
The House knows that over 10 youths were dastardly murdered in Nibo community on the 20th day of October during the celebrations of the New Yam Festival. Also knows that the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria guarantees the right to life, liberty, and serenity of all citizens. Concerned that the recent killings in Nibo has created widespread fear and sense of insecurity among the residents of my constituency. Aware that the violent killings have become a common occurrence in several parts of Anambra State in the past 2 years. The House resolves, number one, to urge the Nigerian Police and Directorate of State Services, DSS, to investigate the killings and ensure that the perpetrators are brought to book within a reasonable time.
Nigeria lost over $500 million to cybercrime in the year 2022, and that's coming from the Executive Chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Mr. Ola Olukoyede. He made the remark at the National Cybercrime Summit in Abuja, where he also revealed that cybercrime accounts for a significant percentage of the 3,455 convictions recorded by the Commission in the past 1 year. Meanwhile, the EFCC is setting up a cybercrime research center for globally competitive research as an alternative avenue of empowering the Nigerian youth.
The arrival of Nigeria's First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, at the banquet hall of the Presidential Villa signals the start of the second edition of the National Cybercrime Summit organized by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC.
And the EFCC have done it so well. It has never
In attendance are state governors and government officials, religious leaders and traditional leaders, captains of industry, the youth, amongst others. The EFCC chairman, Mr. Ola Olukoyede, gives a highlight of the summit with specific attention to rescuing the young generation from the stronghold of cybercrime with workable solutions.
We have reached a stage in our nation that necessity should compel a change of narrative from criminality to productivity, from idleness to usefulness, and cybercrime to cyber wealth. To this end, as part of our preventive research measures in line with Section 6 of the EFCC Establishment Act, the EFCC under my leadership is completing work on a cybercrime research center. We are building a new academy and we are putting up a cybercrime research center in collaboration with one of the fintechs in Nigeria. It's a center that will take minimum of 500 young Nigerians at a time, train them in cyber security and all areas of cybercrime research.
The goodwill messages focused on the youth, turning their attention away from criminality to productivity.
What we need is aggressive engagement so that a lot of people that have done this on the platter of they know, we readjust.
We have no reason to embark on such atrocities. Any temporary pleasure a youth might enjoy in cybercrime is short-lived.
Chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission.
The special guest of honor, the First Lady of Nigeria, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, in her keynote address, described the involvement of youth in cybercrime as a threat to national development.
As we gather here today, we are confronted with a pressing reality. The digital age, while offering unprecedented opportunities, has always exposed us to new vulnerabilities. It is therefore crucial that we address this challenge head-on and explore not only the harmful consequences of cybercrimes, but also the sustainable alternatives that can redirect our youth towards productive and positive endeavors. In this regard, parents play a pivotal role in raising and guarding their children and words to be God-fearing, inculcating in them good values, morals, and a sense of patriotism.
She then launches the EFCC Emergency Response Center.
This is what we'll do. We're going to, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, officially it's been launched. The 247...
The National Cybercrime Summit aims to address cybercrime while exposing young Nigerians with strong tech skills to opportunities in various industries for legitimate wealth creation and an honest livelihood.
Anambra State Governor Professor Chukwuma Soludo has continued with a snap tour of markets and locations to monitor compliance with his directive that all markets and business outlets must open every Monday, as there will be no more sit-at-home. Visiting markets at Nibo, Umunze and Nkwo, the governor commended the traders that comply with the directive, reminding them that neither IPOB nor Nnamdi Kanu approved of the sit-at-home order. He gives assurances of security in all the markets in the state at all times.
It is Governor Chukwuma Soludo's Monday routine snap tour of markets and other locations to monitor business activities. And this time, he first stops at the scene of the Sunday bloodbath at Nibo community in Oka South local government area, where 10 persons were gunned down in a court-related shooting. Inspects the trading activities at the Eke Nibo market, where the excited traders hail him for visiting them. The governor expresses grief over what happened to Nibo community and announces that the perpetrators must be tracked down.
I'm going around Anambra to be sure we are all fine and to be sure you're all in good condition doing your trading activities well. I first stopped at the scene where hoodlums gunned down people on Sunday. I visited there now. We're crying. Anambra is mourning. These cultists that are killing one another, we are declaring a big war on them. There must be a solution to their evil.
The governor departs, and the next stop is Umunze in Orumba North local government area, where he addresses the youth doing communal erosion control exercise to uphold hard work, an industry that Anambra is known for.
Stop closing the market. Whoever that pinned another on the ground has also pinned himself down too. Do you understand? Whoever calls for sit-at-home should take it to the people he is talking to, not when one is angry. One locks up oneself in a protest. Such a one will die of hunger, and that's exactly what our people are doing to themselves.
Addressing those at Nkwo Umunze market, where he facilitates with the traders and even buy a few things from them, he tells them that Monday's sit-at-home is evil.
I came to buy tapioca only to find out that you locked up Nkwo. I have been going around looking for tapioca and I couldn't find it. We must end sit at home. Did you hear me? Next Monday we must come out. You will see security operatives at Nkwo roundabout, and they must be patrolling every Monday to ensure the safety of everybody that comes out to trade.
The final stopover is Nkwo Junction in Idemili North local government area, where business activities are going well. The governor appreciates them for snubbing the illegal order.
Monday sit at home doesn't make any sense. Our people suffer. Your businesses suffer. The daily artisans and those who earn their living on daily basis suffer.
and there is no effect.
As the governor departs, he says the monitoring will continue till there is total compliance and business boom everywhere in Anambra State.
In part two, after the break, the death toll in the tragic Jigawa tanker explosion rises to 181. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, broadcasting live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. The Supreme Court reserves judgment in the suit filed by 16 states challenging the constitutionality of the laws establishing the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission and 2 others. The chairman of the EFCC, Mr. Ola Olukoyede, says Nigeria lost over $500 million to cybercrime in the year 2022. And the IMF lowers its 2024 growth forecast for Nigeria's economy to 2.9%. Governors elected on the platform of the People's Democratic Party, the PDP National Working Committee, the Board of Trustees, and other prominent members of the party are meeting at the Bauchi Governor's Lodge. The meeting is part of a series of meetings by the leadership of the PDP to address the internal wranglings the PDP have faced recently. Although the agenda of the meeting is unavailable to journalists, issues about having a substantive chairman for the party, the convening of a National Executive Committee meeting, and preparations for the forthcoming Ondo State governorship election have dominated discussions in some of their recent meetings. In attendance are the governors of Bauchi State, Zamfara State, and Osun State. Let's bring you up to speed concerning the death toll of the recent tragic tanker accident that occurred in Jigawa State, which has risen to 181. The governor of Jigawa State, Umar Namadi, disclosed this at the presidential villa where he met with President Bola Tinubu and briefed him on the incident. After the meeting, the governor told the press that the state government is taking care of the victims in addition to the promised intervention from the federal government. According to him, the state has also set up a committee to investigate the incident and propose solutions to help forestall future occurrences.
The tragic tanker accident that happens in Jigawa State, which claims a lot of life. So I felt it is important to come and brief the president on what we are doing as a government, and also thank him for sending a delegation immediately the incidents happened. Which this action taken by Mr. President has been appreciated by the people of Jigawa State. So I feel to come and thank him for doing that, and also to brief him so far the situations where we are and what we are trying to do. As of today, we have about 181 people that died, and we had about 80 people in the hospital, and about 210 families are affected. The Jigawa State government has taken the medical bill of all the affected people, and we have done a lot of intervention to the families to ensure that they continue their livelihood. And also Mr. President has promised to intervene and assist the victim. Only that the state government has already established a high-powered committee under the term of retired DIG to investigate the remote causes of that and then advise the government on what to do. You also remember that Mr. President has given directive immediately to the co-marshal that he should investigate this matter and he should come up with a permanent solution to this problem in this country.
Still ahead on the news at 10, the IMF endorses CBN's series of rate hikes and forex reforms, describes them as sustainable measures to stabilize the economy. That's in business news. Please join us again. Welcome back. So let's head to the nation's capital now, and Victoria Longjohn is standing by to give us the very latest from our Abuja studios. Over to you, Victoria.
Thank you, Ayo. And here in the nation's capital, the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike has given roadside beggars a 5-day ultimatum to leave the roads or face enforcement action. The minister gave this warning during the flag-off ceremony of the 2.7-kilometer access road leading up to the newly flagged-off judges' quarters at the Katampe district of Abuja. Our correspondent, Kumbi Abolowade, reports that earlier in the day, the minister had ordered the immediate demolition of an estate in Sabon Lube over illegal construction.
As has been captioned by This 2.7-kilometer road at the Katampe district of the nation's capital is being flagged off for construction by the Federal Capital Territory Administration. This road will link to the judges' quarters, which was recently flagged off, as well as the Jahi district.
With the development of this project and provision of the interchange there, we will completely seal off that U-turn and it will eliminate substantial traffic bottleneck that we experience when commuting from this side with the other side of the district.
The Minister of the FCT, while appreciating the National Assembly for speedy passage of FCT budget, pledges commitment not to compromise projects.
Our budget has never lasted 48 hours in the National Assembly, and that's why we have made it as a point of duty. Every project we back upon, we are not going to compromise. We use the best contractors, as we have seen overseas.
He also declares war on roadside beggars.
Abuja is turning to beggar city. If you know you have a sister, you have a brother who is a beggar on the road, please, from next week, we will carry them. We will take them out. I mean, it is embarrassing that people who come in, the first thing they see are just beggars on the road.
The Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives is the special guest of honor at this occasion. He applauds the FCT administration for the development in the metropolis.
This is yet another significant stride towards strengthening our urban infrastructure and enhancing quality of life for the residents of Abuja.
This project is expected to be completed by May 2025 to form part of President Tinubu's second year in office. Meanwhile, earlier in the day, the FCT minister visited an estate in Sabonlugbe and ordered the immediate demolition over illegal erection of houses. Kumbi Aboluwaje, Channels Television News.
And over to Edo State now, where the Transition Committee's meeting seems to have been put on hold as All Progressives Congress members did not turn up for a scheduled meeting today, October the 22nd. While the chairman of the Transition Committee from the Godwin Obaseki side, Joseph Egboigbe, and his team members were available for the meeting scheduled for the John Odige Oyegun Public Service Academy in Benin City, the Monday Okpebolo team, led by former Deputy Governor of Edo State, Pius Odubu, were not available. Meanwhile, the Edo State All Progressives Congress Transition Committee for Governor-elect Monday Okpebolo says its members were not at Tuesday's session as they were awaiting feedback on vital documents the APC committee had requested from the outgoing administration Transition Committee. The secretary to the APC Transition Committee, Patrick Ikariele, at a different location from the transition meeting venue in Benin City, explained that a key government official had this morning promised to provide feedback on the request for some relevant documents, but subsequently went silent. And that's it from Abuja. It's back to you, Aya, for the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you so much, Victoria. Members of the Government College Ibadan Old Boys Association have asked to redouble their efforts towards the critical development of their alma mater. Now, the national president of the association and the senior advocate of Nigeria, Chief Wale Babalakin, gave the charge during the 2024 annual reunion public lecture held in Ikenne, Ogun State. And in another event held by the association in Oyo State, Governor Seyi Makinde charged all students' associations to help bridge the gaps in infrastructure and support government efforts to promote quality education.
A reunion complete with its nostalgic moments. The Government College Ibadan Old Boys Association National President, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Wale Babalakin, his old schoolmates, their spouses, friends, are joined by the Ogun State Deputy Governor and other distinguished personalities to chart a new course for their alma mater. The annual reunion public lecture series is hosted by the Jebu Remo branch of the association at the Erike Civic Center, Obafemi Awolowo Square in Ikenne, Ogun State. Dr. Wale Babalakin says the association will continue to do more and be transparent as it takes over the management, development and operations of the school.
The first thank you for me is to the governor of Oyo State, Engineer Seyi Makinde, fellow of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, who agreed with our proposal to take over the development, management, and operation of the school 2 months ago. 2 years ago. 2 years ago. I'm sorry about that. And this is something we had craved for since 1980.
Speaking to the topic, what can we do? A former acting governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Adebisi Shonubi, takes a cursory look at the nation's economy and the education sector.
There's a World Inequality Index, and what it says for Nigeria is that the top 1% own 25% of the wealth of the country. The top 10% own 50% of the wealth of the country. Honestly, it is bad, but not too bad, because in America, the top 1% own 30%, and the top 10% own 60% of the wealth. But where the big difference is that many of these countries have safety nets.
At another event held by the association, 7 critical projects donated by the school's alumni association are set for commissioning. This year's celebration coincides with the 95th anniversary of the school, and these old boys and young girls, as they fondly call themselves, are all about giving back to their alma mater. It's a time to unwind and see old friends who came from different parts of the world. They dined and danced, grateful for another opportunity to gather and marry. Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde defied the heavy rainfall to commission all 7 major projects donated to the school.
I hereby declare it open in the name of God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. And here, when you see students that have gone through this place for the past 60 years, and they are still taking interest in, the future of the next generation, what more can we say?
It's important that we reposition education in Nigeria. It's in the doldrums. And I don't believe today that government have the resources to do it alone. The various old boys need to complement government by rebuilding their schools. The old boys of Government College have invested billions of naira in reposition Government College so that it will produce the type of students and the type of personnel that Nigeria requires.
The projects include the Greer House Hostel Facility, a sport complex, Principal's House, Technical Drawing Building, renovated Assembly and Dining Hall, the Bottery and the Quadrangle buildings, renovated in memory of 13 departed classmates of the 1984 set.
Time now for some business news with Dominic Iwiwo. Dominic?
Thank you, Ayotunde. On business news, the International Monetary Fund has reduced its 2024 growth forecast for sub-Saharan Africa to 3.6%, down from 3.7% in July. However, there was a slight increase in its forecast for Nigeria's economic growth in 2025 to 3.2%, up from 3.0% in the July report. The figures, which were shared at the World Economic Outlook, was part of the meeting for the second day at the IMF World Bank annual meetings. Our business correspondent, John Mekwa, reports.
The second day of the annual meetings of the IMF and World Bank at Washington, D.C. has been a really busy one. But the good thing is it started on a very good note as IMF forecasts that global inflation may have peaked already, and so deceleration should be the trend. Now, there are also other conversations that concern sub-Saharan Africa and the G24. The reforms going on in the Bretton Woods institutions also made the topic for the day. The projection of the IMF shared at the World Economic Outlook is based on receding inflation numbers and brings it closer to central bank target, with growth projected to hold steady at 3.2% in 2024 and 2025. However, some low-income and developing economies have seen sizable downside growth revisions.
The progress on inflation has been more pronounced for advanced economies, and now we expect advanced economies to be back to their target sometime in 2025 for most of them. For emerging market and developing economies, there is more variation, and we see an increase in the dispersion of inflation.
Many of those low-income economies are in sub-Saharan Africa, reflecting a slower growth in a country like Nigeria amid weaker-than-expected activity in the first half of 2024, although the country's GDP was placed at 3.1% in the second quarter of the year by the National Bureau of Statistics.
Nobody wants to borrow, nobody likes to borrow, but when it becomes necessary, it's something.
Nigeria's Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Waledu, suggests how developed economies can be more impactful.
The first port of call is concessional financing, IDA financing, for instance, from the World Bank. And what the developing world continues to call for is larger sums that can really make a difference, not just to be able to help a country cope with its immediate payment needs, but to have funds to grow the economies. That is what the fight against inflation translates to for the developing countries.
Perhaps the request of Mr. Aidun will be considered during the ongoing reforms expected at both the IMF and the World Bank.
Now they are in the process of consultations going around countries, going around the region. So I will say that at a minimum, maybe by next spring meeting, they will have an update on where they are in the process and maybe some final decision by the annual meetings.
The Bretton Woods institutions have shared plans to consult with member countries on needed changes to make them more relevant in a world where geopolitical tensions are affecting trade relations and macroeconomic policies. John Mekwa, Channels Television News.
The International Monetary Fund, IMF, has expressed its support to the series of bi-monthly interest rate hikes and foreign exchange measures carried out by Nigeria's Central Bank of Nigeria. IMF's financial counselor and director of monetary and capital markets, Tobias Adrian, made the endorsement during the press conference on global financial stability report at the ongoing IMF and World Bank annual meetings in Washington, D.C., describing them as suitable steps towards stabilizing the economy. While acknowledging numerous economic challenges faced by many citizens in the country, the IMF representative explained that the structural reforms are necessary to promote long-term economic growth in Nigeria and other emerging markets. And the local bourse, it's a positive close for a second day in a week as investors extend bargain hunting for some high-value stocks on the NGX. Ladi Williams has the details.
Well, it's the end of another trading day for the local bourse, and the all-share index continues in the green with a nice 0.20% jump there, 98,892 points. Still watching for that 99,000 level. Maybe that might actually hit this week if we continue with this trend. Market gap 59 trillion. To the sectoral performance now, we see just the banking counter shining today. with most of the Tier 1 banks closing in the green, taking it up 0.91%. But we'll see for the oil and gas counter there, Seplat there, losing out in some of the gains we saw from yesterday. Lost about 38 naira to close as the share price. Consumer goods down 0.70%. For the Fugas now, for the Tier 1 banks, UBA continued in the green, but GTCO leads with an almost 3% gain for today. Zenith Bank not left out, 0.13%. Well, Access Core says unchanged. Well, it's still earnings season right here, expecting more listed companies to reel out their financial performance for the third quarter of 2024. But today, the bull maintains.
And that's it on business news. Back to Ayotunde for the rest of the news at 10.
Many thanks, Dominic. Well, here's Simon Pusey with our international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Donald Trump says a supernatural hand saved him from being assassinated as he tries to appeal to Christians in North Carolina. He participated in the 11th hour faith leaders meeting and avoided using some of the off-color rhetoric he has been using in recent speeches. Mr. Trump's visit to North Carolina coincided with concerns among his Republican allies that crippling damage from Storm Helene will depress turnout in the battleground state's conservative mountain regions.
As I look back at my life's journey and events, I now recognize that it's been the hand of God leading me to where I am today.
Meanwhile, Kamala Harris has told Republicans disillusioned with the former president they are not alone during a tour of swing states with the former Republican lawmaker Liz Cheney. Ms. Harris added that she has seen Republicans who have approached Cheney and thanked her for speaking out against the former president, even if they never say anything publicly.
I've seen a lot of Republicans, I've seen it, and I know it happens, who thank her constantly.
I know it.
Yeah.
I know it.
They're going to vote the right way on November 5th. They might not be public about it, but they'll do what they know is right.
The Lebanese Health Ministry says 13 people have been killed and 54 injured in an Israeli strike near a hospital in Beirut. The strike appeared to hit the car park of the Rafik Hariri University Hospital. Meanwhile, smoke was seen going out over the coastal city of Tyre following explosions. Israel's campaign in Lebanon has so far driven 1.2 million people from their homes. Meanwhile, the head of the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees says Israel is continuing to prevent humanitarian missions from reaching northern Gaza with critical supplies, including food and medicine. He also said UNRWA's remaining shelters were so overcrowded that displaced people were forced to live in the toilets and cited reports that people trying to flee were being killed. The Israeli military has been intensifying a weeks-long offensive in parts of northern Gaza against what it said were Hamas fighters who had regrouped there. On Monday, residents and medics said Israeli forces were besieging hospitals and shelters for displaced people. The leaders of the world's top emerging economies have begun arriving in the western Russian city of Kazan, where President Vladimir Putin will host the 16th BRICS summit, the first gathering of the bloc since its expansion last year. The three-day summit will see participation by 33 countries, with 24 represented at the leadership level. Here, Cyril Ramaphosa, the South African president, being greeted at the airport, while China's Xi Jinping and India's Narendra Modi are also in attendance. Mr. Putin, who is wanted by the International Criminal Court for alleged war crimes in Ukraine, hopes the meetings will show Russia remains a strong player in the world despite sanctions from the West. The diplomatic forum was founded 15 years ago by major emerging markets, Brazil, Russia, India and China, and has since expanded to include South Africa, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran and the United Arab Emirates. Washington state authorities say that 5 people have been killed in a shooting at a home near Seattle and that a 15-year-old boy is in custody. 3 children and 2 adults were killed. A girl who lived in the house was also injured. Sheriff's Department spokesperson told reporters at the scene that the suspect was taken into custody by the deputies without incident. And Britain's King Charles and Queen Camilla have taken a turn at grilling sausages at a community barbecue event in Western Sydney. The community gathering was designed to showcase Australia's cultural diversity and showcase the country's regional produce. Attendance at the barbecue was invite-only and included athletes, entertainment stars and volunteers.
I am so delighted to be here in Parramatta, an excellent choice for a community barbecue, since Parramatta was a place where First Nations people from around the region also came together for generations to meet and trade food. So it's a particular delight to see and smell all the top tucker.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel's studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. Welcome to Sports News. CAF President Patrice Motsepe has appealed to member associations to endeavor to treat visiting teams with respect and dignity. Addressing members at the 46th CAF Ordinary Assembly in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia earlier today, Mr. Motsepe made reference to the ugly situation in the return leg of the AFCON qualifier between Libya and Nigeria, where the Super Eagles were detained at the Libya airport for hours after the flight was diverted. The national under-17 female team, the Flamingos, are eager to end the group phase of the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup with the maximum 9 points as they face host the Dominican Republic. Forward Harmony Chidi and goalkeeper Christiana Uzoma say they are not relenting despite having secured a spot in the quarterfinals with a game in hand. The game will kick off at 12 a.m. Nigerian time. And Arsenal bounced back from the embarrassment at Bournemouth as an own goal from Shakhtar Donetsk goalkeeper Dimitro gave the Gunners a 1-0 win in the Champions League. Aston Villa's dream return to the Champions League goes on after goals from John McGinn and Duran and a 2-0 win over Bologna and sent them top of the table. Stuttgart beat Juventus 1-0. Vinicius Jr. scored a sublime hat-trick as Champions League holders Real Madrid came back from 2 goals down to hammer Borussia Dortmund 5-2. And that sports is back to you, Ayotunde.
Many thanks, Chris. And the main news again. The Supreme Court has reserved judgment in the suit filed by 16 states challenging the constitutionality of the laws establishing the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, and 2 others. And the chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Mr. Ola Olukoyede, has said that Nigeria lost over $500 million to cybercrime in the year 2022. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ayotunde Balogun. From all of us here, it's good night and please stay safe.